So welcome to this evening's Committee of Adjustment meeting. Members of the public, applicants, agents, and staff may be participating this evening either in person or virtually via Zoom. For those attending via Zoom, please note that it is our standard practice for members of the public to have their cameras off and microphones muted until it is time for that member to speak. Township staff can assist with muting microphones. If you require assistance, please use the chat function and ask staff. I am also pleased to advise that this is being broadcast live on the Township's YouTube channel, where a recording of this meeting will be available. Note that the Township does not have the ability to edit the live stream or recorded versions of the meeting. Public meetings have been called, notice circulated in accordance with the Planning Act with respect to applications for minor variance and/or consent. The purpose of public meetings are to inform and provide the public with an opportunity to ask questions and express views with respect to the applications. The format of the public meeting is as follows. Township staff will introduce the application and report on all correspondence received. Next, the applicant or their agent will present any relevant information. Township staff will then provide further information and clarify any statements of the applicant or their agent. Following that, the public will be permitted to ask questions and express views on the proposal, and then the public portion of the meeting will be closed. And finally, members of the committee will be given an opportunity to ask questions for clarification of the application. After all comments have been received, the committee will consider the application with due regard to the presentations and views expressed this evening. The committee will then do one of three things. 1, approve the application. 2, deny the application. Or 3, defer the application pending receipt of additional information. Specified persons have provided oral submissions or written objections but disagree with the committee's decision on an application may appeal the decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal as entitled under the Planning Act. The deadline for an appeal of consent application is 20 days within the giving of notice, and for minor variances within 20 days of the decision date. When commenting on an application, please first give your full name and address for the minutes. Please note that the names and addresses of those individuals who speak at this meeting will appear within the meeting minutes, which are public documents. If you wish to receive a copy of the decision, please leave your name and address with Township staff. So, and a call for, first off, item B, is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, I'm going to go on to item C, which is an adoption of minutes. I'm going to call for a motion. So I have a motion in front of us, COA 2025-043, moved by member Kish, second by member Bossy, that the minutes of the August 19th, 2025 Committee of Adjustment meeting be adopted as printed and distributed. And a call for a vote. All those in favor, we are carried. Moving on, would Township staff introduce the application and report on any response to the notice circulated for adjourned application D1, which is an application for minor variance identified as A-05-25.
Thank you, Chair. So this adjourned application is known as A0525 for the lands known municipally as 2147 Thomson Crescent. This application was initially heard at the March 18th, 2025 Committee of Adjustment meeting, where it was deferred pending information related to the design of the septic system for the property. A copy of the motion is included on the slide there. At the end of last month, on August 27th, the Township did receive a resubmission, including the requested septic design servicing the proposed development. Just as a reminder to the committee, the variances here are requested for an increased lot coverage to facilitate the expansion of the existing attached garage, together with the addition of a 3-season room off the front of the dwelling towards Lake Couchiching. A new septic system is being proposed to service this development, and the septic is being relocated from the front yard. So right now it's located between the existing dwelling and Lake Couchiching, and it's being relocated to the rear of the dwelling between the house and Thomson Crescent. So as noted, the increased lot coverage of 24%, whereas the zoning bylaw would normally permit 15%. Here we have a key map of the subject lands. So they are located here on the western shore of Lake Couchiching at the end. This is Woods Bay Road off of Highway 11. And down here it turns to Thomson Crescent, and these subject lands are shown here in red. The 2024 aerial imagery You can see the existing dwelling located here with the driveway connecting to Thomson Crescent, together with the vegetation that's existing within the front yard. It was a little bit hard to see there, but there are deciduous trees within the front yard. This image is just a time of leaf off. This next slide here is the site plan, once it loads on the screen, that was updated in consideration of this revised proposal, the resubmission, including the septic details. So the existing dwelling is located here, and presently there's a number of decks across the front of the building. Those decks are proposed to be removed and replaced with sort of a more condensed footprint of a 3-season room, as highlighted in yellow here. And then on the side of the dwelling is the proposed expansion to the garage. The additions comply with all setback requirements of the zoning bylaw and building height. It's really just the lot coverage that is being requested. The septic system has been designed here in the rear yard. The township's building division has taken a review of this septic system and is comfortable that it is designed and sized appropriately for the proposed development. The next couple of slides here are just elevation drawings of the proposed building. So this portion of the garage here on the left-hand side is the proposed addition. And then this is the screened room, or sorry, 3-season room off the front of the building towards Lake Couchiching. So as noted within the staff report, the detailed septic design has been received and reviewed by the building division, who has no concerns. There are no objections to the planning opinion that's been presented by Morgan Planning and Development from township staff. I did just want to point out to the committee that this is a little bit of a unique timing of an application as it relates to the applicable policies. And as such, there is limited policy justification to require a development agreement in this case, which normally would be a recommendation from staff. But as detailed within the staff report, township planning staff are comfortable with the proposal proceeding without a development agreement, as the applicant has taken steps to ensure that the development is sited back greater than the required front yard setback from Lake Couchiching. And we have also recommended a condition that the existing vegetation on the property be preserved and enhanced as much as possible. So for those reasons, planning and development staff have no objections to the approval of the application, subject to the recommended conditions. Those being that municipal taxes be paid to date, the construction be in substantial compliance with the plans submitted with the application, and the existing vegetation on the property be preserved and enhanced as much as possible. Just as a reminder to the committee, this application is not subject to another public meeting. The applicant's agent is in attendance this evening. Township staff have spoken with the agent, who's advised they're in agreement with the staff report as well as the recommended conditions. If there are any questions, happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Do you have anything you want to add? Okay, so Mr. Morgan's got nothing to add for this application. As township staff said, there's no public portion of the meeting. So I'm going to skip down. Do any members of the committee require further clarification or wish to provide comments on this application? Seeing none, I'm going to call for a motion. So I have a motion identified as COA 2025-044, moved by member Hawkins, second by member Kish, that staff report D25-033 be received, and further that minor variance application identified as A-05-25 be provisionally approved, subject to the recommended conditions as attachment 7 to staff report D25-033. And a call for a vote. All those in favor, we are carried. So the hearing for this application is now closed. We are moving on. So would township staff introduce the application and report on any written response to the notice circulated for E1, which is an application for consent identified as B-06-25.
Good evening, Chair. The first application, new application on the agenda this evening is a surplus farm dwelling severance proposal for the address recognized as 3900 Menoke Beach Road. To provide a very high-level summary of the application seeks consent to sever a parcel of land containing an existing dwelling and detached accessory structures from the remaining cultivated land surplus to the existing agricultural operation as a farm consolidation. The proposed severed lands would have an approximate area of 0.66 hectares with an approximate frontage of 68.2 meters along Menoke Beach Road. The proposed retained agricultural lands would have a resultant approximate area of 11.7 hectares and maintain an approximate frontage of about 238.9 meters along Menoke Beach Road. Committee might recall that the prescribed policy applicable to these types of applications would typically require the retained farmlands to be rezoned to prohibit any future residential development or any uses that are not for agricultural production. To address that, the applicant has submitted a concurrent zoning bylaw amendment application, which is under review for completeness at this time. We did receive some correspondence pertaining to this application. Enbridge Gas has provided their standard comment indicating no objections to the application, but it is the responsibility of the applicant to verify that the gas service is located on the appropriate properties. The County of Simcoe also provided written correspondence providing an overview of the prescribed policy and the applicable requirements for the site-specific rezoning to prohibit residential development on the retained agricultural lands. Further, they indicate that the township should be satisfied that the supplementary materials submitted by the applicant demonstrate a legitimate farm consolidation, including confirmation that the additional farm parcels will be operated as a single additional agricultural operation. Comments were also received from members of the public. The property owner at 3925 Wood Avenue stated concerns with adjacent residential development in the area and their use of short-term rentals. They further expressed concerns with respect to an increase in the presence of pets and waste and garbage in their area and stated objections to further residential development. The township's applicable departments, including the township septic inspector, stated no concerns with the on-site servicing for the proposed severed residential lands. They reviewed it for like setbacks, all of those types of things to make sure that even once the lands are severed, it would still meet applicable building code requirements. And no comments or objections were received from the Public Works Department, Fire and Emergency Services, or the township clerk. Mr. Morgan is in attendance this evening on behalf of their client and may wish to address the committee.
Thank you. Mr. Morgan, do you have anything you would like to present? So we just want to make sure that microphone's working. It's on? Right.
Yeah.
Go. Thanks. Actually, maybe we'll flip to the next slide. I think that's a better illustration of what. So just to provide some like geographic context here, the property is located just on the other side of the road from the West Shore settlement area. You'll see the development activity occurring to the north, and then to the sort of south and southwest are agricultural lands. Those are outside of the settlement area. This property is outside of the settlement area. And then there's, of course, the shoreline residential lands to the south and to the east. Next slide, please. So the property is zoned rural, and it has, that's the image on the left-hand side of your screen. And on the right-hand side of the screen, that's an excerpt from the township's official plan. So the property has a split land use designation. The bottom half of the property is designated rural, and the top half of the property is designated agricultural. But the lands, as you've seen in the aerial imagery, are farmed. So it's agriculturally used land, with the exception of the house and the accessory and the structures that are accessory to that house. Next slide, please. So as Emily mentioned, the purpose of this application, we call them in the planning world surplus farm dwelling severances. So what we're seeking to do here, in very simple terms, is just sever the house and those accessory structures to the house from the agricultural lands. We've probably done this in my office. We probably do 5 or 6 of them a year across Simcoe County. It's very common. And the intent here is to remove the residential, I'll call it a rural residential lot, from the agricultural lands And as Emily mentioned, we've already submitted a concurrent zoning bylaw amendment application, which will rezone the agricultural lands to prohibit any future development. So for any concern that may be out there for members of the public or for members of the committee, this is not an application that will allow a new house to be built. Those agricultural lands will remain agricultural. That's what the provincial policies and the county policies and the township policies require of us. We're simply seeking to sever off the house so that the holdings are separate. Next slide, please. So this is just an excerpt from our actual consent sketch, the document that we submitted to, paint a picture of what we're proposing. So the blue rectangle is the land that we're proposing to sever. The yellow, of course, are the agricultural lands that will be retained and will continue to be used agriculturally. Next slide, please. As with every planning application that we submit, our office has to as planning staff do, and as the decision makers of the committee have to have regard for the Planning Act, the provincial planning statement, County of Simcoe's official plan, the township's relatively new official plan, and the Township of Severn's zoning bylaw. Next slide, please. So in considering all of those policy documents, it's our opinion that the application conforms with the County of Simcoe's official plan, that it conforms with the Township of Severn's official plan, and that's consistent with the policies of the provincial planning statement. And I think just most importantly, and I'll reiterate it one more time, this application does not provide for the ability to build a new house. We're not creating a new lot for residential purposes, although my client would have loved to do so. That's not the case here today. Those agricultural lands will remain agricultural, and that will be enshrined through a site-specific zoning bylaw amendment, which we've already submitted, and that will appear before municipal council at sometime in the next couple months. That's all I have for you. Thank you.
Okay, do township staff have anything further to add to the materials and information presented by Mr. Morgan?
Thank you, Chair. I'll be pretty brief. Mr. Morgan provided a great overview of the prescribed policy applicable in this type of circumstance. There are just a few items that I wanted to speak to with respect to the recommended conditions. As indicated in the staff report, there are a number of, in addition to the principal dwelling, there are a number of accessory structures located on the property. The applicant, in anticipation of the typical recommended conditions, has submitted the zoning bylaw amendment. You'll see in the recommended conditions included as attachment 5 to the report, staff are just seeking clarification or confirmation that the resultant residential accessory structures would be compliant with the zoning bylaw, or that be included as part of their site-specific request. So that's typically how these types of items are addressed in similar types of applications. And as outlined in the staff report, Morgan Planning and Development has provided a planning justification report covering all of the applicable prescribed policy. The prescribed policy requires that rezoning of the agricultural lands to prohibit any future residential development. Planning and Development staff have no objections to the provisional approval of the application subject to those recommended conditions. In this case being confirmation of the intended agricultural use of retained farmlands, further to the county's comments, demonstration that the lands will be operated as a single agricultural operation. Sorry. And the applicants apply and obtain at their own expense a zoning bylaw amendment to rezone the severed lands to an appropriate zone to recognize the intended residential use of the property. Further to that, the applicants then apply and obtain at their own expense a zoning bylaw amendment to rezone the retained lands to a site-specific zoning to prohibit residential development on the agricultural lands. And as mentioned earlier, demonstration of compliance with the township zoning bylaw with respect to the accessory structures on the severed lands, or seek site-specific zoning permissions to recognize those structures through the required zoning bylaw amendment. That the property owners apply and obtain an entrance permit at the expense of the applicant to access the retained farmlands if that is something required by the Public Works Department. And the standard conditions being a reference plan of the severed parcel be prepared and duly registered after reviewed and approved by the township. Copy of the electronic registration in preparation draft deed for the severed lot be provided so that we can issue the consent certificate. Municipal taxes paid to date. Any fees associated with the application is the responsibility of the applicant. And these conditions be completed within 2 years of the date of this decision. And thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much. So I know there's nobody participating virtually via Zoom for this application. So we're going to move to the next step. Are there any persons in attendance who have either questions or wish to speak in favor or in opposition to the application? If you want to come up to the microphone, you can say your name and all that, but it's all good. So it's name and address for the minutes, and then you can, yeah, it's on.
Perfect. John Slade, 3937 Menoke Beach Road, a neighbor across the street from Ted. I'm in favor of it, and I think it's a good idea to actually partition it off as well.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So I don't think there's any, don't believe there's any more. So if there's no further questions or comments, I declare the public portion of the application closed. Do any members of the committee require further clarification or wish to provide comments on this application? No, I just have one question through to township staff. Obviously, with the proposed severance on this application, I didn't see in the conditions another driveway entrance to, oh, there was, oh, sorry. Oh, right there, number 5. So just subtract that question. So I don't have any more questions. I don't see anybody else. So I think we're ready to call for a motion. Oversight on my part. So I have a motion before us identified as COA 2025-45, moved by member Heil, second by member Bossie, that staff report D25-030 be received and that application for consent B-06-25 be provisionally approved, subject to the recommended conditions set out in attachment 5 to staff report D25-030. And a call for a vote. All those in favor, we are carried. So the hearing for that application is now closed. Would township staff introduce the application and report on any written response to the notice circulated for E2, which is an application for cancellation of consent identified as B07-25.
Thank you, Chair. The next application, as noted, is for cancellation of consent affecting the lands recognized as 3511 Huffman Road. This type of application doesn't have any notice requirements or any public meeting requirements, so therefore it's not subject to a public meeting this evening. Committee should be familiar with this type of application as we just had another one previously heard at the August meeting. Similar kind of situation. It was a condition of a provisionally approved consent. So consent application B1124 was provisionally approved at the August 2024 Committee of Adjustment meeting. That application is to facilitate a boundary adjustment between 3511 Huffman Road and 3372 Agnew Road, which committee may more commonly recognize as the Evergreen Golf Center. The benefiting lands of this application, being the property on Huffman Road, were created in 2005 as a result of an unstipulated consent approved by the Township of Severn. Committee may be familiar with the saying, once a consent, always a consent. So therefore, these severed lands, as they were created by an unstipulated consent, will not automatically merge with those lands being transferred through that provisionally approved lot boundary adjustment application, despite being held in the same ownership. In 2022, the province introduced the option for a cancellation of consent to the Planning Act. So through section 5345, this allows for the registration of a cancellation of consent onto the title of the property, which essentially cancels the previous consent, allowing those lands to merge. The township solicitor has assisted in the review of the conditions of the provisionally approved consent, which has led to us today. And they have advised that this cancellation of consent is the appropriate way to facilitate the merger of the lands being transferred from the golf course property to the benefiting lands at 3511 Huffman Road. Just to provide sort of a visual summary, these are the benefiting lands here located just north of the Evergreen Golf Center. Again, here's the aerial imagery. The specific lands that the cancellation of consent would affect are these lands here. This is the original R plan from the 2005 consent associated with the creation of this lot, is shown as part 1 on this plan. And then just as a reminder for committee, this is the provisionally approved lot boundary adjustment sketch. So essentially the green lands are being transferred from the Evergreen Golf Center to merge with the lands at 3511 Huffman Road. The cancellation of consent would just facilitate that process. As noted in the staff report, there are no statutory requirements or criteria required for a cancellation certificate. It's generally understood that the cancellation certificate process does not really involve a planning issue. The result would be changes to 2 existing parcels of land owned by the same person. The lands would be getting bigger, not smaller. That does not have a retroactive effect, so it wouldn't affect any previous transfers dealing with the lands. It would only be in effect from the time it's registered on title going forward, thereby allowing the conditions of B1124 to be satisfied. This process is generally legal in nature, and it has been advised by the township's lawyer that this is appropriate to do so. Therefore, planning staff have no objections to the approval of the application. The cancellation of consent certificate, again, is required to facilitate that previous provisionally approval. Thank you.
Perfect. Mr. Edwards, do you have anything to add? So if you're gonna. Okay, so I got nothing to add. And we're gonna move on. So township staff, do you have anything more you want to add to the application?
Thank you, Chair. There are no recommended conditions or anything associated with this type of application.
Okay, so there's no, as the township staff had said, there's no public portion of the meeting. Do any members of the committee require further clarification or wish to provide comments on this application? Quiet night, seeing none. I'm going to call for a motion. We have a motion before us. Identifies COA 2025-046, moved by member Hawkins, second by member Kish, that staff report D25-031 be received, and further that the matter of cancellation of consent application B-07-25 be approved. And I call for a vote. All those in favor? We are carried. The hearing for this application is now closed. Would township staff introduce the last application of this evening and report on any written response to the notice circulated for E3, which is an application for minor variance identified as A-21-25.
Thank you, Chair. Our final application on the agenda this evening is a minor variance for the lands recognized as 3091 Brennan Line. To provide an overview of the application, the property is currently zoned greenlands, which does permit for the construction of a single detached dwelling and associated accessory structures. The applicant is proposing to develop the property through the construction of a single detached dwelling and an attached garage located on the subject lands. To facilitate this construction, the applicant has requested the following minor variances to accommodate the proposed attached garage. The zoning bylaw limits accessory structures to a maximum size of 110 square meters or 75% of the floor area of the principal dwelling. The applicants are seeking an attached garage with a maximum size of 175 square meters. Further, any accessory building or structure shall not exceed 1 story and be limited to a height of 5 meters. The applicants are requesting a single-story attached garage with a maximum height of 7 meters. Staff would just note that this would match the height of the dwelling that it's attached to. There has been correspondence provided by internal departments. However, no public comment has been received on the application. The building department has no objections to the minor variance application, but reminds the applicant that a building permit is required prior to starting any construction. Based on site photos taken by township staff, the building department notes that the sewage management, black water or gray water from the 2 trailers located on site has not been approved and is not in compliance with the Ontario Building Code. Therefore, all connections and discharge of sewage must be removed. Further, the Fire and Emergency Services Department states that gasoline and diesel transportation, storage, handling, and use is regulated by the TSSA. Proof that these systems located on site are compliant with the TSSA is required from the applicant. Committee may recall from the staff report, planning staff have included recommended conditions to address these matters, should the committee choose to consider provisional approval of the application. And again, Mr. Morgan is also representing the applicant for this application, and he may wish to address the committee as well.
Okay, Mr. Morgan. You're good to go.
Thanks. Thanks. Presentation up. So, yes, further to Emily's comments, here today speaking on behalf of the owners of 3091 Brennan Line, the McKay family. In short, they want to build a new house on the property, and they would like to build that house in October. And that house is proposed with an attached garage, and the attached garage is larger than the zoning bylaw permits. And as Emily mentioned, the roof line of the house has a height of 7 meters, and they want to continue the roof line across the garage, which is at the back of the structure. Hence the request for a higher height for the garage. It's just a continuation of the roof line. So It's not out of any other need other than really aesthetics. Okay, so actually maybe we'll flip to 2 slides past, or yeah, we'll say this one, yeah. Okay, so the property is located, I guess, northwest, I'll say, of the West Shore Settlement area. It's north of Stockdale Road and south of Cambrian Line on the northeast side of Brennan. The property is approximately 55 acres in size. It's a big property. It's covered in trees, with the exception of a small little pocket of cleared land, which you can see in the top left-hand corner of your screen, and you can see it in the main picture on your screen. You can see the context of that cleared area in relation to the 55-acre parcel. So the house that's proposed to be built will be within that area. So the disturbance of the land will be minimal. Next slide, please. These pictures were taken by my colleague David when he undertook a site visit. So there are 2 trailers there right now, and those trailers will be removed. Is that a condition? It's a condition of the approval that those trailers be removed. And honestly, our clients have been spending time in those trailers over the summer and are eager to get out of the trailers and into a new house. So that's sort of the impetus for our hope for an approval tonight. Next slide, please. So, yeah, so maybe if we actually flip Emily to 2 slides so we can actually look at the images of what the structure will look like, and I'll just kind of speak to them. So, so the purpose of the application is to permit the construction of a 1-story single detached dwelling, the covered patio, and an attached garage. So the picture at the top on the right-hand side, the black and white picture, that would be the image of the house, like the front of the house, which will not even be visible from the road because it's set so far back. So you'll see the big covered porch at the front, the dwelling, like the habitable portion of the structure, evident in the picture at the top. And then the picture at the bottom there, obviously, is the side view of the dwelling with the garage at the back. Okay. So the detached dwelling is proposed. It's about 3,900 square feet. The covered patio is about 1,100 square feet, and the attached garage that we're seeking permission for today would be 864 square feet. Okay. So the house, I guess one of the messages I wanted to send by going over those numbers for you is that the house is significantly larger than the garage, and that's always important to planning staff. It's something that we highlighted in our planning reports and our our presentations to committee, because the residential component of the building has to be the predominant use, right? Because it's essentially a property that is to be used residentially. Okay, so you can't have, a 8,000 square foot garage and a 1,500 square foot house, because then arguably the use, the garage and whatever's happening in the garage would actually be the predominant use. That's not the case here. Okay. Next slide, please. So these are, again, are just side images of the structure. You'll see the roof line, which is a continuation across, which is why we're asking for 7 meters in height. Next slide, please. Again, just more images, image of the back of the structure. So that would be the garage side of the structure in your top left. And again, another image of the front of the dwelling in the bottom right. Next slide, please. These are a bit hard to see on the screen, but just so I can sort of walk you through it. If you look at the image on the left, you'll see like the main portion of the dwelling in the bottom there. And then you'll see like a rec room sort of den area sort of in the middle, and then the garage at the back. Okay, so that's the layout of the entire structure. And then on the right-hand side, it's just a layout of the like the habitable portions of the dwelling itself. They're connected. I'm not sure why it shows them attached. They're not detached. They're actually connected. It's all one structure. Next slide, please. So the property is zoned Greenlands. The Greenlands zoning allows the construction of a single detached dwelling and a garage. So we're not asking permission to build a house. We're not asking permission to build a garage. We're just asking permission for the size of the garage that we wish to build. Property is also designated Greenlands by the township's official plan, which makes sense given all the trees. Next slide, please. Similar to my last presentation, of course, the handful of policy documents which we as planners must review with every application, being the Planning Act, the Provincial Planning Statement, County's official plan, Township's official plan, and Township zoning bylaw. And the primary evaluation, of course, for any minor variance application, as committee members are aware, is the four tests of the Planning Act, the four tests of a minor variance, right? Is it minor in nature? Is it appropriate development? Does the application meet the general intent of the official plan? And does the application meet the general intent of the zoning bylaw? And it's my opinion that's outlined in our planning report and as agreed upon, I think, from staff and their own staff report, that this application meets the four tests of the minor variance as stipulated in the Planning Act. So that's it for me. I would be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Rick, thank you. Do township staff have anything further to add to the materials and information presented by Mr. Morgan?
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Morgan provided a great overview of the prescribed policy, so I won't dwell on that too long. I will mostly speak to the recommended conditions. As noted by Mr. Morgan, planning staff generally don't object to the professional planning opinion offered by Morgan Planning and Development. So I can provide an overview of the recommended conditions should the committee consider provisional approval of the application. So I'll just skip ahead there now. As noted by Mr. Morgan, there are a number of recreation accommodation vehicles on the property, being the trailers, as well as some outdoor storage and outdoor stockpiling of waste on the property. These are to be addressed through conditions, as noted by Mr. Morgan. Planning staff have included recommended conditions requiring that the property in various fashions be brought into compliance, both with the zoning bylaw, but also the municipal bylaw with respect to property standards. So I can cover that now. As indicated, we have no objections to the provisional approval of the application, subject to these recommended conditions. That the municipal taxes be paid to date, that the construction shall be in substantial compliance with the plans submitted with the application, that the property be brought into compliance with the township zoning bylaw to the satisfaction of the township. This includes, but is not limited to, the removal of the recreational accommodation vehicles, being those trailers, the fuel storage, outdoor storage, and other associated structures. That the unauthorized waste management infrastructure be disconnected and appropriately decommissioned in accordance with the Ontario Building Code, and that the property be brought into compliance with the township's property standards bylaw to the satisfaction of the township. Again, these are recommended as conditions. No building permits would be able to be issued to the applicant exercising these minor variances until these items are resolved. So this is an opportunity to bring the lands into compliance with the zoning bylaw as well. I have no further items to add to this application, but available for any questions.
Mr. Morgan, do you have any questions with regards to those? Because I see you pondering.
No, I don't think I do, actually, for this like open forum, probably more just like a conversation that I want to have with staff about exactly how we satisfy staff of these things. So yeah, it's okay.
Perfect. I just wanted to make sure you were good. Do any members of the committee require further clarification or wish to provide comments on this application? Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. Step ahead. So I already know there's no persons participating via Zoom, so we're good there. There is nobody internally here that has questions, so we are good there. So I declare the public portion closed. No, sorry for skipping ahead. Do any members of the committee require further clarification or wish to provide comments on this application? Member Bossy.
One thing is the fuel tanks. Your condition is question to the staff through the chair, that the fuel tanks be removed as opposed to bring up to TSSA standards. Through to you.
Thank you through the chair to Member Bossy. That's correct. The township zoning bylaw does not permit for the bulk storage of fuels on like a residential or a property that's primarily used for residential purposes. So although the fire department requires information on that, the township zoning bylaw would require those items to be removed.
Member Bossy.
I guess the question is on the garage, the size of it, to the staff, sorry. With the fuel tanks there and everything, it screams like commercial use or I guess to Morgan Planning, is there will it be used for commercial use?
I can speak with confidence on that question. So our clients own a landscaping business, which is I think why there's like some material that's been stored on the property. We had a number of discussions about that, and so an option that they would have had would be to, after this was approved, they could submit a zoning bylaw amendment application to seek permission for like a home industry. That's like the official plan sort of provides that avenue if they were to want to do that. Our clients were very clear with me that they have no desire to operate a home industry on that property. They want to separate their home from their business, and they're in the process of identifying another yard for them to move their materials to altogether. So the answer to your question is they do not intend to use it for commercial purposes. They know that should they change their mind and wish to use it for commercial purposes, that a zoning bylaw amendment would be required.
Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing as there's none, I call for a motion. So I have a motion before us identified as COA 2025-047, moved by member Hiles, second by member Hawkins, that staff report D25-032 be received, and further that minor variance application A-21-25 be granted provisional approval subject to the conditions included as attachment 6 to staff report D25-032. And I call for a vote. All those in favor, we are carried. So the hearing for that application is now closed. Moving on in our agenda, I'm going to call for a motion for adjournment. So a motion before us, COA 2025-048, moved by member Bossy, second by member Hawkins, that the Committee of Adjustment be adjourned at 8:11 p.m. on September 16, 2020. 7:11, sorry, it's an off night. 7:11 p.m. on September 16th, 2025. All those in favor, we are carried. Good night.